What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're going to be talking about Season 5, Episode 11, A Sunny Day in the Void. No! This episode was directed by Kyle Dunleavy and written by Brent Friedman. The cookie for this episode: when all seems hopeless, a true hero gives hope. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with others to help support the channel. As always, great content every single week, plus like 6 years worth of content previous to this, so nothing that you guys want to miss out on. I feel like this week is going to be a little bit different of an episode of the Retro Discussions because we really don't have much to talk about, because really nothing happens in this episode. You know, before we get too far into this though, intro guy, give him the rundown for this episode. Let him know what happened last week in case anybody didn't see it. Secret weapons! The Jedi Council deploys a squad of droids on a desperate mission aboard a Separatist cruiser. Under the guidance of Colonel Meeber Gascon, the droids succeed in stealing a crucial encryption module. Now, the Colonel and his droids must return the module to the Jedi Temple to crack a Separatist code detailing an impending terror plot against the Republic. Thank you, intro guy. Now, as I was kind of alluding to, this episode really only has two parts to it. The first part is about 6 minutes long, where it's them on their shuttle, them trying to get through this meteor shower, and then crashing onto a planet. The other 15 to 16 minutes of this episode is them just wandering through a void. This area of nothingness. And I remember watching this episode for the first time back in the day, being super bored by it. Even today when I watched it, I was super bored watching it. I even got the bored headache. That's how boring I think it is. This is an episode that I think I've only seen a handful of times, because usually every time when I'm going through Clone Wars, this is like when I go through the episodes, it's like, okay, which ones can I skip? There are very few, but this one is definitely number one on that list. And then we have to answer the question as well, right? Like, is this a filler episode? Because the term filler, especially nowadays, like in the 2020s and stuff, gets thrown around so much where, to me, I feel like the term filler has lost its meaning. So I feel like the true definition of filler is like, you can go without seeing the episode and you won't miss anything, right? Maybe we'll go on like a random adventure, but nothing that necessarily like furthers the characters or their progression, right? Side missions can still progress a story and progress characters. And the only bits of that in this episode that I could actually see a progression for the characters is through the Colonel and through Whack. And really that's all you're gonna get, because they're the only two people that can speak a language we understand. The other four speak astromech, and I can't translate any of that. So you're kind of forced to deal with those two characters if you're gonna have any sort of development anyway. And I would say that by the end of it, they do have a mutual understanding for each other, right? We see that because they were kind of butting heads all episode. We see it a lot in previous week's episode as well. But once you get towards the end and you get to that moment where they're on those ostrich-like creatures and they're making their way towards the town that they're going to, that the birds end up taking them to, it's almost like through there, they're able to kind of have that like little bit of a bonding moment with each other. And for the Colonel to be like, you've got your programming, I've got my training, but these birds have instincts. They know how to survive out here. And then in the end, the Colonel ends up making Whack a corporal, which is actually kind of ironic because that's what Whack kept calling the Colonel in the last episode. And yeah, again, like that's really all I have to say about this episode. Like those were really the only key moments from this episode, because otherwise the rest of it is just them walking through a void. And I remember watching the behind the scenes for this episode right before I came on here to record, and George was very adamant that this, you know, the second episode of this droid arc be different and it'd be about nothing. And according to Brent Friedman, who wrote this episode, he said that was something that was something that a lot of people dreaded. No one really wanted to touch it, but he took on the challenge. And I'll give Brent Friedman his flowers then for writing this arc, because I think overall he did a good job. And I think with this episode, he did the best he could with the direction that he was given. Listen, the thing about George Lucas is George is someone that was always trying out new things, right? The prequels were different from the original trilogy, and that was something that upset a lot of people. Like, he decided in episode 2, right? Like, oh, let me make a love story. It's what half this movie is going to center on. And I think in some ways it worked, and I think in other ways it didn't. This is an episode where George Lucas wanted to try something different. And I feel like if I remember correctly, I remember hearing somewhere that that's supposedly the Void episode is his favorite episode in the Clone Wars. Because of course it is. I don't know. This one for me is definitely one of my least favorite episodes in the entire show. I get that they were trying to do something different with this episode, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to work. And to me, I don't think that it did. I give everyone credit that worked on this episode. Everybody did the best that they could. But I think in the end, it didn't really do anything for me. And again, it's one of those episodes that's like an easy skip for me every time I watch through the Clone Wars. I think you definitely, if you're watching through the Clone Wars, you have to at least experience this episode once. In all honesty, I could really say that about every show. I think with every show, like, you gotta be able to watch it through, like, in full at least once, right? And then when you go back to watch through the series again, like a second time around or a third time around, and it's like, okay, what episodes can I just like skip through here during my walkthrough? And The Void is always one of those episodes for me. And at the end of the episode, it's like, okay, at least now they're at this town or this village, this city, whatever you want to call it. At least they're finally where they need to be to hopefully try and get off the planet. But at the same time, like, I didn't know, obviously none of us really knew at the time where that story was going. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I don't know if I really care about this. I just want to move on from this arc. I guess one other quick thing that I can mention as well, because I've only seen this episode a handful of times, so something I did pick up this time around that I think is probably going to play into something that happens in the next episode, but the ship that they find in the desert, is that supposed to be the ship that Gregor crashes down onto the planet with? Like, surely that's what that was foreshadowing, right? I'll have to check that out when we get to next week's episode, which will be Season 5, Episode 12, Missing in Action. I actually feel like it's been a minute since I've seen these droid episodes, so I'll have to go back in and refresh my mind on that part. But yeah, overall, you guys, not that great of an episode we got here this week. One of my least favorites in the entire show. I do believe ultimately that for the most part, this is a filler episode. If you want to make the argument of like, well, by the start of it and by the end of it, it progressed the story, like, okay, that's fine. But there's also a massive middle portion in there of just nothing. Yeah, you guys will have to let me know what you guys think about this episode. Do you guys like this episode, or do you guys not consider it filler? Like, let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.
Captain Rex, reporting with you.
What? I don't understand. That's me?
No, that's Captain Rex. He's a clone in the Republic Army, just like you, Gregor.